Good evening, and welcome to Hello It's Us, Perspectives on Inclusion. This program is dedicated to educating the general public about issues which are important to the disability community, but we believe that as you watch these programs, you'll recognize that those same issues are important to everybody, since people with disabilities are an integral part of the general community. Hello It's Us is brought to you through a collaboration between the University of Iowa Center for Disabilities and Development, our friends at Uptown Bill's Coffee Shop, and the good people here at Public Access Television. My name is Mike Honig, and I work for the Center for Disabilities and Development as a program coordinator. And for this particular episode, I will be serving as your only host. Those of you familiar to Hello It's Us know that Keith Ruff is our founder and leader in this initiative, but we're recording this on a day when we had about 6 inches of snow in Iowa City yesterday, and he is snowed in. So he will be joining us in the near future. Hopefully by the next time we film, we will not have any snow on the ground anymore. So you're stuck with me as the host for this session, and I am very pleased to welcome Sarah Furnish to join us today. Sarah is the artistic director for Infinity Dance Company. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks
for having me on.
Thanks for being here. I've had the opportunity to see the Infinity Dance Company a couple times at ADA Celebration. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to Infinity Dance.
So Infinity Dance is an inclusive contemporary dance performance group. We regularly perform at the ADA Celebration, and that's a lot of fun. What brought me there? I was taking my dance coursework at Mendocino College in California. So I was a dance major there, and they had one of our spring dance shows was an alumni. A lot of old teachers and old dancers came back and did choreography for our spring dance festival. And we had someone who came, and she brought a girl with CP, and she did a weekend workshop with us with Danceability, and then left, and then we were expected to perform it. And I was like, what? I can't do this. But the reason why anybody can do it is because it's improvisation. So it's in some ways very, very simple, but in other ways it's very, very complicated and hard for a lot of people to wrap their head around.
Sure.
But so then when I came back to Iowa, I ran into some people who wanted me to do some choreography, and there were some people doing some work with disabilities in dance and theater and things like that. And I remember my training, and I kept trying to go back to that, but it was a short little workshop weekend. So I really wanted to make sure that I had good training, to make sure that I was producing work that was equitable for everyone in the group. I don't want some people to stand out as being special, or we're just doing this nice thing for this disabled person. Great. Not that it's not good to do nice things for people, but that's not really the point of Danceability. Danceability is more about equality.
Sure. That's great. So when you had to perform in California, did you have to perform it in a wheelchair?
Well, so Danceability does use, often, not always, an extra wheelchair. So we had the lady, when it came time for the performance, the lady came back with our teacher, and she performed with us. The lady was CP.
Oh.
And then we also had an extra chair. I was so scared of that extra chair. I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna fall over. This is just not my thing. I don't like to ride bicycles fast down hills. So I tried to stay out of it for the most part. But, so there's a little bit of discourse going around that people who are in the disability community and dancing and performing, they say that that's part of, the chair is their identity, and that when people, non-disabled dancers use the chair for It often doesn't really represent what it's like
Mhm.
for a disabled person in a chair,
Right.
because they have more mobility and things like that. But there are also very able-bodied disabled dancers, so that's a little bit of a wraparound saying that nobody can be the same.
Right.
Danceability has a way to make us all be the same in a way, and unique at the same time.
Well, that's great. You know, I think one of the things that I really like about that philosophy is that it's not like a quote unquote special program. I mean,
Right.
you're not making people out to be charity cases or anything
Yes,
like that.
exactly.
You're just involving people of all abilities.
Right, and like you said earlier, it does benefit people with and without disabilities. People without disabilities learn how to be with people with
Mhm.
disabilities. They learn how to look at people as just regular people because they see them every week in their dance class.
Right.
They're just the same dance friends as anyone else, that we laugh at each other and we're creative and have a good time. So I do think it's particularly important to start it with children. My group uses pretty much anyone that wants to be involved. So I've had a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and one of my very consistent members that's been with us for maybe 3.5 years, she is, let me see, 65.
Okay. Wow.
And I've had another lady who was, close to 80. So I think everybody not just benefits from the different ability levels, but they also benefit from the age range. You know, as much diversity as we can have is actually what we
Yeah.
want, because it's a realistic reflection of what's actually happening in society.
That's so true. And it was interesting when you mentioned the controversy around having the extra chair and having somebody go in a wheelchair, because I happen to know that you participated in the Through My Eyes documentary, which
Mhm.
Sujit produced and with Keaton. And one of the things that I thought was really telling and was really interesting was the person who participated in that way in the documentary and spent some time in a wheelchair, really learned a lot, and you did it in a really good way so that she wasn't, getting out of the chair and saying, "Oh, that would just be terrible." I mean, she admitted at the beginning that she was kind of scared, but when she was done, I think she really got the message that this isn't about making it bad to have a disability.
Exactly. For me, I say this is very exciting because I will be able to continue to dance no matter whatever happens to me or what age I become, because I have had a good time dancing in a wheelchair and I know how to use it. But also, it does take away that stigma, like, oh, this is just something, how people get around. It's just a mobility device. It's not something to be, wheelchair bound or
Right.
have pity over. It's a way that people move.
Perfect. Yeah, that's that's a good thing, because the dancing is benefiting obviously all the people that are involved in dancing, but hopefully you are also educating the general public
Right.
when you have your performance.
Right, that's why we really have to get out in front of as many people as possible, just so that they can see what people can do together, they see what people do in collaboration, they see that different people can work together, and they see what people with disabilities can do. It's pretty amazing. People with disabilities see what they can do for the first time, like, oh, I didn't know I could do all these different things, and you see their faces light up, and it's all from themselves. It's not something that I'm teaching them. With improvisation, it's very creative, so they have a lot of input, which helps. When you have maybe a variation in the population, then we want their input just as much as anybody else's.
Yeah, and so much about anything, I think, is with attitude. And if a person has the confidence oh gosh, I didn't know I could dance, and I can dance, maybe that will even help them realize that, well, gosh, maybe I should try something else. Maybe there are other things that I can do too.
Right, right.
Yeah. So you mentioned trying to get in front of as many audiences as possible. What are some of the places? I mean, I know you're regulars at the ADA celebration, But have you been able to get some other gigs around the community?
Well, we do the ADA celebration. We also perform regularly at West High's. They have a different kind of name for it. Not different, long. It's their special needs fundraiser and talent show family night at West High. And it's just a lot of fun. Usually that's our first performance in the spring. And they're such a great audience. Everybody's just so happy to have us that it boosts the confidence for the rest of our performances to come, because they're very, very kind, and we always feel great at the end of it, and people are very interested, and so then it kind of gives us that little boost to keep going for the rest and say, we can do this.
That's great. It's always good to have an audience like that that's, is going to be receptive.
Mm-hmm. And then we have the Iowa Dance Festival in Iowa City.
Oh.
And so we perform in that pretty regularly, not exactly every year, but they're going to have that this fall in October. So this year we have a very small group, but we have an amazing dance. So I'm really excited to get out and perform some of this, because it's very simple, but it really shows what can be done.
Well, and it's not always about the numbers. It's like you said, the creativity and being able to show what can be done, and who knows, maybe it'll help you recruit.
Right, yeah. It isn't about the numbers. I mean, right now it's very small, but I really love it because it's not as much management of the group.
Right.
They're very focused, and we just go over this dance over and over and over. Because one of our ladies, she has a traumatic brain injury. So for her, it really helps her just to be able to go over and over, and she'll be really confident when the dance performance time comes.
So how many, do you have a membership, like a cap on the number of people that you like to have in the group? Or?
I'd say in the space that we're in right now, we rent a room at the senior center, and probably the room that we're in right now, maybe about 10.
Okay.
But in the past, I've done Monday and Wednesday night, so if I got larger, I could expand and do another class rehearsal night,
Right.
and then we can do one person, we can do many.
Do people have to audition, or is it basically just showing up, or did it?
No audition. It's really a willingness to put yourself out there and be creative.
So, I wanted to take a step back and ask you how long the dance company has been in existence.
I believe this is our 5th year, and after I moved back to Iowa City and was doing a little choreography, I started looking around again for the training, and Danceability International has been training dancers for roughly 30 years. And it's a month-long certification. I had to go to Padua, Italy for this one.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe every 10 years they have one in the US. It's really just when a group of people have the need, then they get a hold of them. Sometimes in the US they do a little bit of it on their own. Alito Alessi is the founder and creator, and he is from Portland, Oregon, but mostly teaches around the world. So after that, when I did my training, I started the group and said, let's get out there and show people what we do. And then, last year, I believe, last October, or the year before, sorry, I took the master teacher training. So that is so that you can teach the Danceability Orientation Workshop, which is 1 week.
Okay.
And so you're teaching teachers how to have some tools to be inclusive, or choreographers, people who are doing it, but it's not the full month-long training.
But so when you went through the training, you had to go to Padua for a month?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And then Trier, Germany for 2 weeks, and I went to Puebla, Mexico for a week to experience the orientation that I'm now able to teach.
So this was an extensive training that you had to go through in order to teach this.
Yeah, I mean, it's really an understanding. A lot of these exercises are just very rooted in improvisation and contact improvisation. So sometimes people talk to me and they have very similar exercises to what we're already doing.
Okay.
But the philosophy, the training with other dancers who have disabilities is invaluable. I also did some trainings here. I took the summer intensive with Access Dance Company. They're pretty much the premier physically integrated dance company in the U.S. The other one would be, now I'm forgetting the name, and I shouldn't be, but I took a course with,
The other one.
oh my God, that's so horrible. Well, there's Revolutions Dance in Florida, and that's what I'm getting it confused with, which is also a neat little program. There's a lot of work going on in Florida, California, and then I've worked with some people in Chicago a little bit. There's a company there called Momenta that has a physically integrated program, and they have monthly workshops for inclusive dance. So there's kind of some different language used. Physically integrated dance is generally going to be those very able-bodied disabled dancers. You know, a lot of times they're found in athletics, they're, you know, in the Paralympics and things like that. So they already have a very athletic build, and they already know how to train. And so then there is inclusive dance. That's what we do. Anybody, you can be blind, deaf, physically disabled, cognitively disabled, it doesn't matter. We have ways to make everyone work together. And then there's another term called adaptive dance. And adaptive dance, I kind of think of that in the, I try to compare it to the school setting. You know, when you make an adaptation, you're using kind of that common ground. So if we had an adapted ballet class, we might make a ballet class so that everybody can take ballet regardless of your situation, but we might adapt it a little bit for different abilities. So adaptive uses more of that mainstream ballet, tap, jazz, and makes it so that everybody can come, which is great too. They're all really wonderful ways to let people be more involved and let people see more involvement.
That's interesting, because that was going to be my next question. You know, when I think of, I've actually taken some dance classes, but they were more on things like the foxtrot and some of those more, you know, traditional steps. So what you're teaching primarily is more of an improv than, although I assume that somebody could integrate some of those things that they've learned from quote unquote traditional dance steps into what they do. Yeah,
you know, some of the people that we have had dance backgrounds, and so it's kind of an interesting process. In the beginning, when you start doing the improvisation, Alito tries to get you out of those routines and to come up with more original work from your own body. And then over time, when you really have that process down, you might start adding in some of your background knowledge. But it's really interesting to see the whole process of how you can come out of being a trained dancer to your own dancer. It really helps you become your own dancer. And then there is Paralympics, it's just called wheelchair dance, and it's Paralympics things for similar ballroom dance. And
really?
so there's usually one person in a chair and one standing dancer, and then and they go through the whole thing, and they're incredibly beautiful. It's interesting when you start to get used to seeing chairs in dance. It's a way for people to see the chairs and other things as simply mobility devices, a new way to move.
And I assume that they are propelling themselves, right? They are directing their own steps when they're doing the dance. Or do they have sometimes somebody pushing them to?
In the inclusive dance that I do, sometimes people are pushed, sometimes people propel themselves. It really depends on their own disability and what their needs are. Some people need a little more help sometimes, and other days they don't. I just tell them to let us know what they need.
Right.
And
that's great, because disability certainly can change from, the impact of it from day to day, or what's going on before they get to your class, or
yeah, and sometimes people are just really tired.
yeah.
So it's nice that you can still dance, and you can sit in the chair if you want. It's okay.
That's awesome. Now, do you have volunteers or other instructors that work with you for Infinity, or are you pretty much?
I have one, and but she dances with us, and she just helps me out when I need a little extra help. Actually, she helps me out a lot. But Sandra is my main helper.
Good.
But overall, the interesting thing about danceability is that you don't really need helpers. We can do whatever we need to do in class. Like I said, it teaches the people without disabilities how to be with people who have disabilities.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, that's just as important as anything
Absolutely.
else. So they're learning to move with care. I don't want to say care for, I want to say care with, and make decisions with people who have disabilities. So honestly, sometimes I get that from people. They say, "Oh, well, I'll volunteer," and to me, that creates a little bit of a hierarchy. That some people are helpers, and some people need help.
Right.
Which in reality, we all need help,
Right.
and we all need to help people.
Exactly.
So that's, there's no reason to make it this abnormal hierarchy when in reality it's not like that. But in danceability, we believe that the real disability comes from isolation in society.
Mhm.
So, so that anybody can participate, we do have what we call a satellite support system. Sandra's my satellite support, but oftentimes I'm training my whole class to be a satellite support. If someone needs help going to the bathroom, go with them.
Mhm.
Or it's not even about help. If somebody wants to stare at the wall at class, someone else can go stare at the wall with them, because they're never wrong. And oftentimes, those people who sat staring at the wall for a few weeks, they're going to join the class and know everything we're doing. It was just their own process of taking in that information.
Well, and it allows, what I really like about that is it allows a person to be themselves.
Right,
him
yes,
or
exactly,
herself,
right.
because, sometimes there are all these ideas about what's acceptable and not acceptable behavior, and perhaps this is the first time that somebody has been able to go to
Absolutely.
a class or whatever and do, whether it's staring at the wall or talking to themselves or whatever, and not
Yeah.
feel like they have to be, removed from the setting.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
That's good. So you've involved people with, it sounds like, with a variety of disabilities in the classes that you've taught in the company so far?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two that I've had the longest, Leslie, she has a traumatic brain injury, and she also had a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the exact story, but so she uses a wheelchair, but she does have mobility to propel herself and get around, and she's kind of the star of my dance coming up. So I'm really excited about it because it's one of those situations where she's really seeing for herself in this dance what she can do, what her own range of movement possibilities are. And then we have Andy. She's been with us from the very beginning, and she does not self-propel, and she has limited vision, and so, you know, all these different things bring in more possibilities.
Right.
People think, oh, you can't do this or that, it's limited, but when people ask me why I do this, I say, because it's super fun. It's very creative. I can do whatever I want, and so can everyone else.
I saw Leslie. Leslie was on the video, on Sujit's video.
Yep,
and
yep,
so
she was the star there too.
Yeah, and so it sounded, you know, you could just hear in her voice how much fun she thought that it was to be a part of an Infinity Dance Company.
Yeah, you know, and we had another interview here at PATV one time, and they just asked what we liked about it, and Leslie said, I just like joining in.
Yeah.
And I said, it's so simple, yet so profound to have a place where you belong
Yeah,
in your
so
own way without having to change yourself.
just be yourself.
Uh-huh.
Well, we're getting close to time already. I knew this time would go fast, but I would like you to tell us how, if people wanted to connect with you or with Infinity Dance, or come check a practice out, or think about joining, do you have a website? How do you like people to reach out to you?
Well, I have a website, but it needs to be updated. The best way is probably on Facebook.
Okay.
The Facebook page is active, and then, you know, you could always contact me on Facebook or the Senior Center.
Yeah, okay. And you said your practices are on what night?
Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock from 6 to 7. And sometimes people call the Senior Center and they'll direct them to me. They can give them my phone
Okay.
number or just tell them when the class is, and it's almost always okay to drop in.
Terrific. Well, and if it weren't, I'm sure you'd let them know that you were doing a private practice or something. But well, I really want to thank you for joining us. I've certainly learned a lot, and I'm sure that our viewers have too. I want to also thank our sponsors once again, and most of all the viewers for checking us out, either through our dedicated time on Public Access TV, Channel 18, or on YouTube. So thank you again, Sarah, for joining us today.
Thanks.
And as my partner in crime, Keith, would say, have a good week out there.